I'm 85 years old. I've been a priest for 60 years. This is the confession that made me question everything I thought I knew about evil. I'm 85 years old, and I've spent 6 decades listening to people confess their sins. I've heard about affairs, lies, theft, violence. I've heard people admit to things that would shock you, but I've never heard anything like what a woman told me on a rainy afternoon in 2003. This wasn't a confession about a moment of weakness. This wasn't about a mistake made in anger or passion. This was about something far more terrifying, a calculated, deliberate destruction of another human being. And the victim? Her own sister. I'm bound by the seal of confession, so I can't tell you her name. But I can tell you her story, because I believe some stories need to be told. Not to shame anyone, but to show you how far jealousy can take you if you let it grow unchecked. It was a Thursday afternoon. The church was quiet. I was sitting in the confessional, half expecting no one to come. Most people work on Thursday afternoons, but then I heard footsteps, quick, nervous footsteps. The confessional door opened, and a woman sat down. I could hear her breathing, fast, anxious, like she'd been running. But she wasn't out of breath from running. She was out of breath from carrying something too heavy for too long. "Father," she said, her voice shaking, "I need to tell you what I did to my sister, because she's dying, and if I don't tell someone now, I'll carry this to hell with me." I've heard a lot of opening lines in my years as a priest, but something about the way she said it made my blood run cold. I said, "Take your time. God is listening." And then she told me everything. She said she'd spent 35 years systematically destroying her sister's life, not all at once, not in obvious ways, but slowly, methodically, piece by piece, like dismantling a house brick by brick until nothing's left standing. It started when they were teenagers. Her sister was beautiful, the kind of beautiful that made people stop and stare. She was also kind, funny, talented. Everything came easy to her. Friends, boys, opportunities. Meanwhile, this woman, let's call her Mary. Mary felt invisible. The plain sister, the forgotten one. "I hated her," Mary said, "not because she was cruel to me. She wasn't. She was always kind, always trying to include me. And I hated her even more for that, because it made me feel like a charity case." When they were 17, her sister started dating a boy Mary had a crush on, a boy Mary had never even spoken to, but had loved from afar. When her sister told her about the relationship, excited and happy, Mary smiled and congratulated her. But inside, something broke. Or maybe something dark was born. That's when Mary made a decision that would define the next 35 years of both their lives. She decided to take everything her sister had, everything that made her happy, and she would do it so carefully, so subtly, that her sister would never even know who was destroying her. The first thing she did was sabotage the relationship. She told the boy lies about her sister, small lies at first. "She's seeing someone else." She said you were boring, nothing dramatic, just seeds of doubt. And she watched those seeds grow. Within 6 months, the relationship fell apart. Her sister was devastated, cried for weeks, and Mary comforted her, held her while she cried, all while knowing she was the one who destroyed it. In college, her sister fell in love again, a good man, kind, ambitious, planning to propose, and Mary couldn't let that happen, so she seduced him. She admitted this to me without shame, just cold honesty. She seduced her sister's boyfriend, slept with him once, then made sure her sister found out. "I wanted her to hurt the way I hurt," Mary said. "I wanted her to feel what it was like to be second choice." The sister was destroyed, not just heartbroken, destroyed. She dropped out of college, fell into depression, stopped eating, stopped going out. Their parents were terrified, and Mary? Mary played the concerned sister, took care of her, brought her meals, pretended to be her support system while secretly feeling satisfied. But it didn't stop there. Over the years, Mary continued. When her sister finally got a good job at a marketing firm, Mary called the company anonymously and made false accusations that got her sister fired. When her sister started painting and showed real talent, Mary sabotaged a gallery showing by calling the owner and claiming the paintings were stolen designs. Every time her sister built something, Mary tore it down, and she did it so carefully that her sister never suspected. Her sister thought she was just unlucky, thought life was unfairly hard for her, never knew her own sister was the architect of every disaster. The worst part, Mary told me, crying now, is that she never stopped loving me, never stopped calling me her best friend, never stopped trusting me, and I used that trust to destroy her over and over again. When her sister finally met someone and got married at 45, late, but she was happy, Mary couldn't stand it. So she had an affair with the husband, a 2-year affair, and when the sister discovered it, the marriage ended. The sister had a breakdown, was hospitalized, nearly took her own life. Mary sat with her in the hospital, held her hand, told her everything would be okay, all while knowing she was the reason her sister wanted to die. Why? I asked. It was the only question I could manage. Why did you do this? Mary was quiet for a long time. Then she said, because I wanted her to be as miserable as I was. Because if I couldn't have happiness, I didn't want her to have it either. Because every time she smiled, it felt like she was mocking me. But here's where the confession took a turn I didn't expect. Mary told me that 3 months ago, her sister was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, aggressive, terminal, maybe 6 months to live. And when Mary heard the news, something inside her shattered. I realized, she said, that I'd spent 35 years destroying the only person who ever truly loved me, the only person who never gave up on me, even when I deserved it. And now she's dying, and all those years I could have spent being her sister, being her friend, I spent destroying her. Mary went on to tell me that she'd been visiting her sister every day since the diagnosis, making up for lost time, she said. But her sister didn't know the truth, didn't know that every bad thing that had happened to her was Mary's doing. She still trusted Mary, still loved her. Should I tell her? Mary asked me. She's dying. Should I confess what I did, or should I let her die thinking I was the one good thing in her life? I sat there in that confessional, and for the first time in my career, I didn't know what to say. This wasn't a simple sin. This was decades of calculated cruelty. This was a woman who'd spent half her life being a monster to the person who loved her most. Finally, I said, "What do you want from this confession? Forgiveness? Permission to keep lying?" "I don't know," she said. I needed someone to know the truth. Because if she dies and I never tell anyone, it's like it never happened. And I need it to have happened. I need to be accountable for it. I told her something I'd never told anyone in confession before. I said, I can offer you God's forgiveness, but I can't tell you whether to confess to your sister. That's between you and your conscience. But I will say this, forgiveness without truth is just another lie, and you've built enough lies. She left without saying anything else, just stood up and walked out, and I sat there in the dark confessional, feeling like I'd just witnessed something profoundly evil and profoundly human at the same time. I didn't hear from her for 6 months. Then one day, I was reading the obituaries, something you do a lot at my age, and I saw her sister's name. She'd passed away. The funeral had been the day before. I went to the church records to see if Mary had come back. She hadn't. I wondered if she'd ever told her sister the truth. I wondered if her sister died still believing Mary was her best friend, or if in those final days Mary had found the courage to confess. I'll never know. And maybe that's the point. Maybe some secrets go to the grave. Maybe some confessions are too late to make a difference. But here's what haunts me about that confession. Mary didn't destroy her sister out of hate. She did it out of envy, out of this twisted belief that if she couldn't be happy, no one could. And in the process, she destroyed 2 lives, her sister's and her own. Because while her sister suffered through those 35 years, at least she still had love in her heart. She still had the capacity for joy, for trust, for hope. But Mary spent 35 years consumed by bitterness, 35 years poisoning her own soul, and when she finally realized what she'd done, it was too late. I'm 85 years old. I've been a priest for 60 years, and that confession taught me something I'd never fully understood before. The person you hurt most when you hold on to jealousy isn't the person you envy. It's yourself. You become a prisoner of your own bitterness. You turn yourself into someone you don't recognize. If you're carrying envy in your heart, let it go. Not for the other person's sake, for yours. Because envy doesn't just damage relationships. It destroys your soul. It turns you into someone capable of cruelty you never thought possible. Mary spent 35 years thinking she was punishing her sister, but she was really punishing herself. She traded a loving relationship for the hollow satisfaction of revenge, and in the end she lost everything: her sister, her integrity, and all those years she could have spent being loved instead of being bitter. Don't make that trade. Don't let jealousy turn you into someone unrecognizable. Don't waste your life destroying someone else's, because in the process, you'll destroy your own. I don't know if Mary ever found peace. I don't know if she told her sister the truth before she died, but I hope she did, because confession, real confession, not just to a priest, but to the person you've wronged, that's the only path to redemption. The truth is painful, but living with lies is torture, and Mary lived in that torture for 35 years. Don't do that to yourself. Whatever you're carrying, whatever bitterness is growing in your heart, let it go before it's too late, before you wake up one day and realize you've become the villain in someone else's story, and worse, the villain in your own.